Hello everybody, Big Chillin episode 1, making home Knafeh at home from scratch. Let's get into the ingredients. Ingredient number 1, just simple all-purpose flour or white flour. Any bag you can grab at home, just take it and use it for the Knafeh. Ingredient number 2 is gonna be ghee. This is a animal-based ghee, al-baqara al-halloob. And it's an actual export, so you have to search for a Middle Eastern store or a Turkish store. This is a plant-based ghee, also an export. Sorry, an import, not an export. And these you can find them also at Middle Eastern stores. The third type of ghee I'm going to show you is something you can make at home easily. You simply just get a blocks of butter, boil them, and then filter them off from the milk particles, and you get ghee at home. You could find some YouTube videos on how to do this ghee, on how to prepare this ghee. And simply the last and the third ingredient is just simply some water, and you will need a small water bottle, which I will show you right now. Yes, this water bottle. I know it's not fully filled, but you guys will understand why later. You need something like this, or maybe a plastic bag, something that you can pour from, preferably something that you can poke a hole in. And the last ingredient is obviously, guys, how you can make knafeh without cheese. So our last ingredient is cheese, and I'm gonna show you a couple of types of cheese that you can use. First type of cheese is the Nabulsi cheese. Nabulsi cheese is widely available also in Middle Eastern stores, and not in your local Walmart, obviously. And you can know it's Nabulsi by the sesame seeds that are present. The second type of cheese is a Caribbean cheese that you can buy from Price Right at the international section. It's called Queso Blanco or something like that. Sorry if I bombed the spelling. But it's a tropical Caribbean cheese, and it's, perfect for knafeh. Try to get the type that is not for frying. The last type of cheese, which is widely available everywhere, is mozzarella cheese. If you can find unsalted mozzarella cheese, that would be preferable. If you can't, I'm gonna show you a way to make the cheese sweet. So to make the cheese sweet, let's cut the cheese first of all. As you can see here, I'm struggling to cut the cheese because it's frozen out of the freezer. But to demonstrate for you guys, I'm just gonna take a piece out of it, and a small piece, and show you how the blocks of cheese are supposed to be cut to size. You're gonna get maybe a jar or a jug or like a huge pot of water, and depending on the amount of cheese, you're gonna soak it for 8 hours. Honestly, it all depends on the saltiness of the cheese, and you have to change the water every an hour to 30 minutes, just to make sure that you don't want to keep it a long time in the water, because the salt, you gotta get rid of it and add new water. So okay, let's get into adding the ingredients together. So for every 2 cups of flour, you're gonna add 3 cups of water. So as you see here, I'm adding 2 cups of flour. So if you guys have a pencil and a pen, grab it and record all of these. So for every 2 cups of flour, you add 3 cups of water and a quarter cup of ghee. You can also add sugar, but these are like the most simple basic ingredients. Also you can add food coloring, which I didn't do here, and that might food coloring is kind of important because it gives you like a the authentic look at the end. I didn't do that in this video because I know a lot of people don't have food coloring, the specific food coloring that I use at home. So what I did is just, I'm gonna do it without the food coloring. And yeah, so we're gonna pour the water, mix them all together, and there's a couple of options to mix it. You can either mix it by hand, as I'm doing here. I'm gonna speed it quickly, so I don't want to bore you guys with it. Or simply, if you guys have a blender at home, or just use a blender, simple. So just put all of this stuff in the blender, mix them up, and you want to mix them up until you have a very good consistency. And as you'll see, if you put your finger inside it, it has to drip like water. And sometimes what I will note is that you might need to add more water, and yeah, as you can see, here's the consistency. See, it's dripping like water. You want to make sure there's no like solid particles lingering around. So now we're gonna go to roasting the dough. In this step, we're gonna fill up the water bottle with the dough or the watery dough, and we're gonna poke a hole in the cap, and then we're gonna spread it like this way. We're gonna use a Tefal pan because you don't need to spray non-sticking oil or olive oil or whatever. You just put the liquid directly on the pan. So what you're gonna do here, you're gonna spread it this way. You're gonna wait until it roasts properly. So what I mean by roast properly, you don't want it to be, you want the dough to dry up. So when it dries up, it becomes crispy. You want to wait for it to kind of get crispy and then remove it. One mistake I did here is that I was in a hurry, so I did not wait. And I'm gonna show you guys in your case, if you do that, if you're in a hurry and you're doing this, how to fix the knafe dough, because it's a long way from here. So I'm gonna just speed it. And as you can see, where this is the end product. In my case, as I mentioned, it's kind of spaghetti consistency, which you don't want. You want to make sure it dries up, becomes a bit crispy. So next, after you're gonna do that, if you make it crispy, you're gonna put it inside the blender. So here I want to show you guys something that's a common mistake. So see what's gonna happen with my knafe dough here. So what's gonna happen is, as you see, it seems that they're mixed up, but they're actually getting jumbled up. The reason is because there's still moisture in them, which obviously, if you put some spaghetti inside, if you boil spaghetti, put it inside the blender, it's gonna become like dough. Which in my case, I ended up with some dough. So how did I fix that? You're gonna see it in the next clip. So in the next clip, I just made it into smaller pieces like this. I put them in the oven at a temperature of 425 for 20 minutes. Then I turned down the oven and I kept them for about, turned down temperature, kept them for about 30 minutes. And here you can see, they're now crispy. They're like chips. And that's how you want the dough to be, because it helps you in the next step, which is also, we're gonna go back to the blender and grind it up. So this time I'm going to be using a processor. The processor is easier because you can get finer particles of the knafe. So actually I did this the next day because I had to keep the knafe in the oven for more than an hour, as it was late at night. So here I will blend the knafe. And another note here I wanted to note is that at this stage you can also have knafe that's moist, like in my case. I still have moist knafe. You could use this to make knafe, but it's better if you end up in this stage to put it in the oven again. This time what I did is I heated the oven to 500 degrees Fahrenheit and I turned it off. Then I put the knafe inside it for 20 minutes and it was dry and ready. And as you guys can see here, the knafe dough is dry and it feels like small pebbles. Which is what you want to feel when you touch it. The texture should be like you're holding, small rocks. And now we're gonna take it to the processor. And yeah, so as I mentioned about the cheese earlier, this is the next day we're making the actual knafe. The cheese has been soaked and it's in a strainer. It's important to have a strainer because it's easier just to soak the knafe and take out it and change the water. So going back, keep the dough in the blender for a couple of minutes. So as you can see, the consistency now it's kind of like small pebbles, small rocks. So I want the knafe to be finer than this. That's how I personally prefer it to be finer. Not all people prefer it finer, but I personally prefer the knafe being finer. You guys can follow me. So what you could do to make it finer is, the first step, you could use a strainer. So what you would do is put the knafe on the strainer. You're gonna keep shaking the strainer. Now let me note that this is a very tedious process and it's gonna take a while. So an alternative is if you have a spice grinder. What you would do is put these pebbles in a spice grinder. So as you see here, it took me a while to get these small fine particles out. So here's the spice grinder. You just put it in a minute. You can have really fine. Now, as I mentioned, some people don't prepare it that fine. I on the other side like it that way. So this is after I've finished grinding all of the knafe. Now, if you have a larger quantity, it's gonna take you a while. So as you can see, it kind of looks like protein powder in some way. This is how you make knafe at home, knafe dough at home. And please, if I didn't explain anything properly, make sure to add your questions in the comment section. I'll be answering all the questions. Hit me up on at Knafeh Prince on Instagram. And I don't have the best quality equipment right now, so I can't really provide the best quality of audio or video. So I thank you all, and yeah, Ramadan Mubarak and have a nice day.